We're used to hearing about NFL teams and owners and the league itself as the defendant in a lawsuit. This was surprising to me yesterday to see that lurking kind of at the bottom of this controversy that's been engulfing Jerry Jones for the past few years, although it hasn't really been as big of a deal as maybe it should have been. Jerry Jones accused of being the father of a woman who was born back in the 90s. There was a paternity suit filed a couple of years ago. In February this year, he was ordered to actually submit to a DNA test. She later sued Jerry Jones and others for defamation. That claim was dismissed. But when that lawsuit was filed, Jerry Jones actually raised a counterclaim accusing Alexandra Davis, his alleged daughter, and the alleged mother, well, the actual mother of Alexandra Davis. There's nothing to prove there. That's, the birth process would tend to be conclusive proof of the fact that Cynthia Davis is the mother of Alexandra Davis. But the question of whether or not Jerry Jones is the father has never been conclusively determined. But what happened was back in the 90s, they worked out a deal. They worked out a settlement. Jones would pay the money necessary for the care, feeding, and the raising of Alexandra Davis, and they would never say a word about it. They wouldn't sue. They wouldn't say anything. Nothing would happen, and that was that. Well, what Jerry did, and apparently he didn't do it after the first lawsuit, but decided after the second one, okay, fine. You know what? You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. I keep using that Batman reference, but it's been fitting more than once in recent weeks. He filed a counterclaim arguing breach of contract and apparently wants to get all that money back. So it's not quite that simple. A lot of times a contract will have in it what's called a liquidated damages clause that says, for example, if you ever breach this, you have to pay back all the money. That's not really damages. That's a penalty. And that will be one of the big arguments if and when this thing moves forward. It's supposed to go to trial in a couple of weeks. That's what surprised me. We didn't even know this thing is going to trial. They're going to pick a jury on the 19th of July, and they're going to start trial on that Monday, the 22nd, with Jerry Jones as the plaintiff. And, this isn't like a defamation case where his whole life becomes fair game and his cross-examination could delve into a bunch of different things. This is a very simple business proposition. Hell, he may not even have to testify. You need somebody to get the contract into evidence. Maybe the lawyer who negotiated it will do it. It's a contract. It's a document. Now, the plaintiffs who became defendants because they filed the lawsuit, that claim was thrown out, and now this counterclaim is all that's left. The defendants, they deny wrongdoing. And one issue that I flagged yesterday as I was looking at this, for people under the age of 18, you can't be bound by a contract unless they went through whatever process would apply in Texas. In most states, what happens is, and this usually comes up, this is your free continuing legal education seminar for today. If there is an injury case and a child is injured in a car accident, which is horrible when it happens, it's horrible anytime anyone's injured in an accident, but quite often a child is injured. In order to actually have a binding release of claims, if they settle the case for whatever the payment will be, you have to have the court appoint what's called a guardian ad litem. It's a lawyer who looks over everything, makes sure it's all being handled fairly, who acts as the advocate for the child, so that when the time comes to end the case, to settle the case, it's a binding contract on the child. Because ordinarily, if you're under the age of 18, you're not bound by any contracts. So unless they went through that process and there was a guardian that was appointed for Alexandra Davis, none of this is binding on her. Whatever money changed hands, whatever promises were made, they do not bind her at all unless they have that formal court process. And maybe they had it for all anyone knows, but that's something to keep an eye on. The whole thing really is surprising, though. An owner going on the offensive. And there was a quote from one of Jerry Jones' lawyers saying this is about the principle, but there's also a lot of money involved. Well, he doesn't need the money. At a certain point, you come off as a bully when you're a multi-billionaire and you're trying to squeeze money out of people that you've already given the money to for taking care of what might be your daughter. And we still haven't, I don't know. I mean, maybe really rich people just don't have to listen to court orders. It was February when he was ordered to submit to the DNA test. I assume it's tied up on appeals or something along those lines. But at some point, you just got to do it. At some point, if you don't do it, you're in contempt of court and everything that goes along with that. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.